Matthews,
Here.
Davis, Manila, Drum, Randolph. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Public announcements, phones and pagers, please turn them off, put them on vibrate. Appeals, if you disagree with anything this commission passes tonight, you have the right to appeal it to the council. The appeal cards are over on the railing to my right. Same is true with speaker cards. If you wish to speak on any item on our agenda tonight, please fill out a speaker card and turn it into the staff, and they'll get it up here to us. Any speaking that's done, we have 10 minutes on each item on each side. In other words, if there's 10 people that wish to speak on a particular item, each one can have a minute, or one person can have all 10 minutes. That's something for y'all to work out. There's a 5-minute rebuttal. After your case is heard, whenever you start leaving, please don't go out in the foyer out there and have a discussion, because the sound comes back into the chambers here. Please rise for the invocation by Mr. Randolph and the pledge by Mr. Matthews.
Gracious Father, once again, we come to you to say thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you bestowed in our life. Lord, we thank you for those veterans, both active, reserve, and veterans, Lord, that actually have given their lives to protect, maintain, and preserve our freedom and liberties. We thank you for the constituents we serve, as well as this commission. Help us to make the decision that's in the best interest for them. And all these blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right. Commissioners, you had a copy of the minutes from last month's meeting. Are there any corrections or changes that need to be made? Mr. Randolph. We have a motion by Mr. Randolph to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Drum. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar automatically dispensed by vote as approved and/or as per staff comments. Items pulled from the consent calendar shall be discussed and voted on individually. Do we have any from staff that needs to be pulled?
Yes, sir. Also, we would need to do some tablings as well. Yes, pulled the first case under minor subdivision, MS 14-10-058. That's the only ones we have for pulling.
Why are we pulling that one?
It requires a waiver of the regulations.
Okay.
Road frontage.
Okay, so the rest of them, you don't have any other ones that need to be
No, sir.
postponed?
Oh, no, well, we have postponement, yes. We have postponement
Oh, I'm sorry,
for.
pulled, yeah.
Yeah, pulled, no. Postponement, yes.
All right. So the only item we've had pulled is MS 14-10-08. I'll entertain a motion. Well, the rest of the items on the
Mr. Chairman?
consent. Yes, sir.
We have other items to be pulled, I think.
All right. Does anyone in the audience wish to have an item pulled? Yes, sir. Please come to the mic and state your name.
My name is Court Hutchison. Live in Lacombe. I did fill out a card and asked to pull this item as well as the next item. I handed it in with name and so forth to the young lady at your right.
Okay. All right. All right. Anything else? Anything else on pulling them right now?
Those two,
Okay.
59 and 60.
All right.
Thank you.
59 and 60?
And 60, yes, sir.
All right, 58 we just pulled, and I understood you to say that you don't want that one in the next one, but.
No, I didn't say anything about
59, all
58.
right, I misunderstood you then.
Young lady, do you still have, is it
she's
Ms.
got it here.
Tobler, the card that I handed you?
Yeah, she's got it, 59 and 60, right.
All right.
All right,
Those are pulled, are correct?
so all three items on the minor subdivision are being pulled. I'll entertain a motion for the Two items that remain on the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Davis to pull the MS 14-10-058, 059, and 060. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to take the remaining items on the consent calendar. Motion by Mr. Willie, seconded by Ms. Cassabon. Please vote on those items on the consent calendar. We got two folks that hadn't voted yet. All right, we got it there. I think those are approved. All right. First item is MS 14-10-050. Yes, sir.
Have something to postpone, I believe. Staff needs to postpone one, I know.
Okay. Ron?
Yes, sir. Postpone a couple of subdivisions on page 2, under the first case under preliminary subdivision approval, Countryside Phase 1A, developer request postponement. And on item, page 3, first item on page 3 for final subdivision for Beatico Creek, parcel E2, developer again requests tabling, or postponement.
Motion to postpone those two items.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Matthews to postpone SD 06-06-018, P as in Paul 1A, and we'll take that one, and then we'll go to the other one. I need a motion.
I moved.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Willie to postpone. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right.
Motion to postpone the second one.
And motion to postpone SD-04-08-024, F as in Frank 9. Motion by Mr. Matthews to postpone, seconded by Mr. Willie. Please vote. Motion carries. All right. Now we go back up to page 1 of the agenda under minor subdivisions. The first item that was pulled is MS 14-10-058, a 17.62 acre parcel into parcels A and B, Ward 2, District 6. The owner is Jane H. Sharp. The surveyor is Land Surveying LLC. This is in Honorable Richard Tanner's council district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposed owner of the property has proposed 17.62 acre tract, like I said, divided into two parcels. The proposed parcel B does not meet the minimum lot width requirement in an A1 suburban zoning district, and that's the reason why we're having the hearing. The owner is proposing to create two parcels from one parent parcel. However, proposed parcel B does not meet the minimum lot frontage requirements of 300 foot for an A1 suburban zoning district, which would require a waiver of the regulations by the commission. The staff has no objections to the proposed minor subdivision request and supports the waiver for the frontage in question due to the fact that the parcel opens up into over a 500-foot width, approximately 184 feet back from the roadway. And said parcel is very large, consisting of 11.62 acres. Since a waiver of the regulations are required in order to approve this minor subdivision request relative to the lot width issue, a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission is required, which is 8 members, in order to approve pursuant to section 40-100 waiver of regulations of subdivision ordinance 499.
Thank you. Ms. Sharp, are you in the audience?
Yes.
All right, you want to step up to the mic and tell us a little bit about what you're having done here or would like to have done? Do you have any comments based on staff comments?
It's
Please state your name.
Jane H. Sharp. We're wanting to divide the property between my mother's property, which I was the sole heir, and I wanted to divide it with two of my children.
Okay, that is popping up quite frequently here now. All right, anything else?
No.
Okay, anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Casabon.
Yes, the staff has no problem with the minimum, the width. I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Casabon, seconded by Mr. Willie. Mr. Matthews.
Ron, the regulation, the ordinances require a 300-foot front. What's the purpose of that, and how does doing this square with the purpose of the 300-foot front?
The A1 zoning district has always had a 300-foot frontage for 30-plus years, mainly because it constitutes a rural designation, and therefore large parcels, and therefore large frontages. Also, because these type of parcels also tend to have individual sewer and water systems, again, to have enough frontage to allow for the affluent to go through the ditches and basically settle out.
And the staff feels 251 feet accomplishes those goals?
Because the fact that, as I indicated in my staff report, you go back 184 feet, it opens up into a 500-foot plus width, yes, so we don't have any objections to that.
Okay.
Mr. Davis?
I have a question for staff. The actual frontage is not on parcel A, is actually 29140, isn't it? You're looking at the linear frontage, is that what you mean?
That's correct, the linear
So
frontage.
it doesn't matter if the angle of that is so intense that the actual rear back portion is, say, 200 feet?
No, again, we're looking at
Okay.
an 11.62 acre parcel. That was evidently, as I talked to the petitioner about that was evidently some type of residual leftover portion of a
I just didn't know if
former
it was a
parcel.
technical or a legal
Yeah, no,
aspect.
that-
When you say 300-foot frontage, you're
yeah.
thinking that means width, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that. It means purely linear foot.
Well, we say lot width or linear frontage, it's kind of interchangeable, but again, we don't have any issues with the proposal.
Anything else, Mr. Davis?
I don't know, I was just thinking about that. Can I get some assistance on this with legal? I mean, I'm just wondering, I mean, when we say 300-foot,
Right.
it's not a
you-
300-foot width, I mean, it's
It's a
too many.
it's a 251.55 foot frontage on Highway 40.
A.
Yes.
Parcel A.
And as you go back approximately 184 feet, the property widens out to over a 500
Okay,
foot
well, I was
width.
talking about parcel A, but the portion you're talking about, 251.55, is actually 186.3 foot
Yes.
width.
Yes, we don't have any problems with parcel
Okay,
A.
no, I don't have a problem with it
Yeah.
either, I'm just trying to understand if we're talking, the same language here, that's all.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, anyone else on the commission need comment on anything? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Was that with the waiver, Dave?
Yeah. Got one more vote. Okay, we've got a 9-0 vote. It passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Sharp, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, page 2. MS 14-10-059, Lot 2 into Lots 2A and 2B, Ward 7, District 7. The owner is Christopher R. Jean, the surveyor is Kelly McHugh and Associates. This is in Honorable Jake Groby's council district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal is required for a public hearing because it is part of an existing minor subdivision that was done several months ago, and a private drive is being provided to a proposed parcel 2A. The owner is proposing to create two parcels from one parent parcel within an existing minor subdivision, and a private drive is being provided for proposed parcel 2A. The owner is proposing to create the two parcel lots from, I'm sorry, that's a restatement of that information. Since the one drive is being provided to only one parcel, the requirements to build a road to Parish standards is not required, and pursuant to section 45.01 of the minimum standards for a private drive. Therefore, the staff has no objections to the proposed re-subdivision requests.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone here representing Mr. Jean?
Yes, sir.
Step forward and state your name, please.
Thank you. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, and I represent the petitioner, Lacombe Business Park LLC. I think the staff report lays before you what we seek, and because apparently Mr. Hutchison has comments, I'd rather reserve my time after he has spoken.
Okay. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this? Yes, sir. Ms. Hutchison, I believe it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I have in front of me a letter that was from Mr. Keller to the engineering department referencing this parcel. And attached to that is the application for this and the owner's checklist. 1, 2, 3, the fourth item down, it shows 3 items checked that were included. All right, the next block, which is for a copy of private covenants or deed restrictions, if any, is not checked. Now, there was a deed restriction filed which includes this property. And in that deed restriction, it shows what is to be, or was to be, yet to be determined, the main access for all of these properties. And also in this deed restriction, it includes, turning lanes off of 434 to access this property. So my question is that if there is a deed restriction on any property, and within that package is a survey showing the road access and for these properties, does that have binding?
Ron, I want
Point of information.
Well,
to,
I'd like to direct this to council, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
okay, we'll let Terry.
A deed restriction is usually granted in favor of someone. So you would have to look at the deed restriction to see whose favor it was granted in. If it was the
I have a copy of it
CCST or whoever, or adjoining property owner, that would be the appropriate person or entity to enforce that deed restriction.
Okay.
The parish does not enforce private deed restrictions. That's between private parties.
Okay. This, on the introduction, and persons came, and this is in favor of Lacombe Business Park LLC, Progressive Waste Solutions of Louisiana, and Concerned Citizens of Lacombe. I'm here as advisor to the Concerned Citizens of Lacombe, and would like those questions answered if possible this evening.
Okay,
let me just,
Mr. Ron?
okay, Jeff, I guess Jeff,
Okay. Mr. Shane's here representing Mr. Jean, so
Not at all, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, again, point of order. As a commission, we don't engage ourselves into private agreements. So if what they're referencing is a deed restriction, we as a public body do not entertain what there might be in a private contract. So my question again back to council is it appropriate for us to even be addressing a private contract relative to planning? It's just a question.
I have not seen the document that he has. I don't know if there's something else in the document that we, if you'll recall, this was as a result of litigation that we were involved in. So there may have been something in a judgment or something of that nature which put the parish in a different position. But normally, we do not enforce deed restrictions. And maybe Mr. Shane, he was involved to some degree. Maybe he can shed some light on it.
Mr. Shane?
Yeah, maybe I should have taken a little more time when I first took the podium. Mr. Keller can correct me if I'm mistaken, but actually you do have some jurisdiction as it relates to maintenance agreements when we create minor subdivisions that are serviced by private drives. For more than one parcel. So the reason that the box and the item shown on the application is there is by way of example, had this been a 50-acre tract and it were being divided into the maximum 5 lots, and let's just say a single drive was being constructed right through the center of it, and the 5 lot owners were going to share in the maintenance of that private drive, the parish absolutely requires that there be a maintenance agreement in the form of a restrictive covenant that's recorded in the public records. And it assures everyone that when you buy a lot, you know that you not only have a servitude that allows you to use the road, but you also have a maintenance mechanism where each lot owner or the property, each lot is actually responsible for the cost of maintenance. Now, if I could, to maybe be more specific and hopefully calm any concerns that anyone might have about this request, the document that Mr. Hutchison refers to is a document called Deed Restrictions, dated November 8 of 2012, and for the record, they're recorded with the Clerk of Court as Instrument 1878279. And they have various provisions that do, in fact, address access to Highway 434. However, those restrictions address Lot 1. So if we'll take a look at the plat before you this evening, you will see where Lot 1 is, and you'll see how Lot 1 in its southeast corner gets to be very narrow. There is actually a separate servitude that's not part of the minor subdivision, but is part of the restrictive covenants that I'm sure Mr. Hutchison is referring to. I realize it's not in front of you, but it goes to the east and connects to Highway 434. We are simply tonight re-subdividing the original Lot 2 into Lot 2A and Lot 2B. And we are not impacting Lot 1, the access to Lot 1, the restrictive covenants that were specifically created so that we'd know that there would be a 4-lane landscape boulevard coming into Lot 1. There were many other restrictions and conditions because Mr. Hutchinson and I negotiated this together and with others. So why are we doing this? And maybe that even will help everybody all the more. We have a prospective purchaser for Lot 2B who intends to access the property at 434 and also, refresh my memory, the existing private road.
That's a Capel?
Capel. Capel Road is a private road not shown on the survey, but runs along the southern boundary. The prospective purchaser has use of Capel Road due to other property that they own, and I think you know the Summerholder family. Yeah. So our purpose this evening is to create a parcel that will be known as Lot 2B. It has the same access in the southeast corner of the overall tract at Highway 434, and again does not impact the access or the access obligations that are laid out in the deed restrictions as it relates to Lot 1. I'd be glad to answer questions when it's my turn to come back if that's not clear to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you said. Okay, I don't know how much time we've got left here, but the plot in the same deed restriction, it provides for only 2 accesses to 434 off of all of these properties in the deed restriction. Okay, is this going to be the only road restriction? I mean, they're coming in in a 35-foot wide private servitude that runs through that length. Is that going to be continued for the access of these other properties, a 35-foot wide? That doesn't make sense, nor do I think complies with your road requirements.
Okay.
Okay, so okay.
Let me address it now? Sure. Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, if you compare the
have the plat in front of you. Did staff also provide you with the prior minor subdivision plat?
No, I don't think they did.
Okay. Well, at least for the benefit of Mr. Hutchison and I, and if I need to pass this around, I'll be glad to. The first point that I would wish to make is that the access shown on the plat before you for consideration this evening at the southeast corner of the property is identical in size, width, dimension, angle, etc., to the plat that was approved by this commission and filed on September 6th of 2012. So there's no change there. You are correct that the deed restrictions recite that there can be no more than 2 access points to Highway 434. If we look at the minor subdivision plat previously approved and the one that is being approved tonight, there's technically only one, and that's at the southeast corner. In addition to that, the deed restrictions, not the minor subdivision plat, the deed restrictions that concern citizens of Lacombe, Progressive Waste, and the parish agreed to, also call for a second access point, which is an obligation. It's not a matter of whether we'd like to build it. There's an obligation that the industrial traffic come through a 4-lane, boulevarded, landscaped access point. And again, I realize you don't have the benefit of it, but it connects to the southeast corner of Lot 1. Take a look at Lot 1, about where you see the number 58 degrees. Right there, if you can picture my pen just going straight out. That will be the second access, which is an obligation of the developer. So again, from an access perspective, nothing different tonight than what we did 2 years ago. The only difference tonight is that we're going from 2 to 3 lots, and as staff has noted, we have the right to do that. Obviously, you can go up to 5 lots, and we can, of course, give independent access to this Lot 2B, which I might add is going to also seek a down zone. It will no longer be zoned industrial. Now, I realize you're a planning commission, but I do think it might be pertinent for you to know that what's happening is what once was going to be a large tract of industrial is going to shrink by 97.33 acres in all likelihood to what I will tell you is a very benign and institutional type zone if the zoning commission and council see fit in the future.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
In that 97 acres was never, was not zoned as industrial previously.
Yes, sir.
It was
No, sir.
zoned as PF2, correct?
No, sir, incorrect. I'll show you that as well. And I wish you'd have called me. We've worked too many times through the years where we could have gotten together and talked about some of this stuff. But we,
Unfortunately, this didn't come to our attention from some paper drop by somebody, even to the council person, until 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
well, I was aware of some inquiries of last week about it. And the 30 acres is zoned M1. So
Okay.
I can only tell you it's not all zoned PF1. Now, the rear section,
Rear section along the
69
bayou.
acres along the bayou is public facilities 1, but 30 acres
Yes, 30
of
acres,
property
not 97.
currently zoned M1
Yes.
is going to be rezoned to a more benign zone.
Understood. And we're all very happy for that.
Well,
Now,
I'm glad
let me ask you this question here. Okay, so this is,
David, this is your call.
yes, may I continue, sir?
Sir?
May I continue?
Yes.
Okay. If this is access, right now, we'll call it access 1 at the corner of 434 and Capel, and then this will be number 2, then how are these properties going to be accessed?
Those properties are not part of the minor subdivision and actually front on Highway 434. And were not part of the deed restrictions. This piece is not owned by the
No,
developer.
that is correct, it is not. Okay.
These pieces, though, would be accessed presumably right here by the boulevard.
Okay,
No, where it's not here.
right.
But off the boulevard.
Off the boulevard.
Yes, sir.
On the issue of the not requiring the
Mr. Chairman,
road-
point of order.
Yes,
What
sir.
relevance does a private conversation have to the commission? They're having a private conversation.
Dave, to answer your question, I think it's a matter of clarifying. Mr. Shane could have, made his 10-minute presentation. Mr. Henderson could have made, Hutchinson, I'm sorry, could have made his, and then we'd have gone to rebuttal, but it would ended up, in my mind, just exactly what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a back and forth, and it is more of a conversation than a presentation to the planning commission. May I let Mr. Hutchinson go ahead?
As chair, you
Okay.
call it as you wish.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I would request that this be postponed.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Shane, I'll give you an opportunity for rebuttal on that.
I appreciate it. Well, with all due respect, I see no reason for it to be postponed. The request meets the requirements of the law. I'm sorry that I didn't have a chance to discuss it with Mr. Hutchison prior to tonight. Had I not dealt with he and his organization in the past, I could understand why maybe he wouldn't have known who to call or how to call. He actually crafted this agreement with me, literally. So if I show a little impatience by being not only hit with this tonight, but then also after giving what I think are pretty reasonable and satisfactory answers to each of his questions, that it be postponed, absolutely I don't want it postponed. And I'll tell you, the business transaction to convey the 99 acres is dependent on the lot being created. No big secret there. But we think this is a good thing not only for my client, but I would like to think that the people of Lacombe probably would prefer to see less industrial zone property there than the current amount. So this is step one to facilitate that. I ask that you follow the comments of staff or the recommendation of staff, and that you approve this minor subdivision amendment this evening.
All right, Mr. Hutchison, do you have any further comment?
I still am not clear on the deed restrictions that include this property and the changes that this is bringing forth.
Okay.
Okay,
You will have an opportunity, if this commission approves this minor subdivision, you will have an opportunity to get with Mr. Shane between tonight and the time this comes on the council's agenda, which is, what, 30, 45?
No, it'd only come to the council agenda if he appeals it. If you approve it tonight, it's approved.
All right.
You got 10 days to appeal if you disagree with whatever decision this commission comes with, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the council will handle the appeal at the council level, okay? But I would hope that within the next 10 days, whether this commission approves this or not, you and Mr. Shane can get together and everybody's on the same page.
okay. My next question, doesn't this proposal create a change of zoning? So there,
No, sir.
No.
Not right now.
it's already zoned, and I've got a copy of the ordinance, this other zoning. So my question is it would appear to me that it's going to go before the council for the zoning change.
No,
But there's-
he'll have to come back to the zoning commission and request the zoning change, and then this commission will make a recommendation, the zoning commission will make a recommendation to the council at that point in time on the zoning request,
Okay.
okay?
I don't want there to be a misunderstanding. I'm not against this
You're just
this
trying to get
proposal.
clear on what-
I'm trying to get clear.
Okay. Well,
Thank you very much.
You'll have some time in between tonight and the time that you will run out of time on an appeal process,
Right.
okay?
Okay.
All right.
With that said, I'll say that I'll take the opportunity to meet with Mr. Shane on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, this is like I said, minor amendment to the minor subdivision. Staff has no objections. I make a motion to approve.
We have we already have a motion and a second to approve? I'm sorry?
They just finished talking. We just closed the floor, and that's the first motion I've made.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on this. Mr. Matthews.
I just want to make one comment. My comment about postponement was merely frustration in sitting here, the commission eavesdropping on a private conversation going on. And if that's where we were going to go, we needed to bail out and postpone this. It appears this is a very simple matter, and we should approve it.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, just for clarification. Jeff, can you come up for a second? I hate to drag this thing along, but I'm very familiar with this area. We've been through this. I live in Lacombe. I know this area. The mud road that you have going out to Lot 1 right now, the road you have right now, that's the road you're going to make the 4-lane. Okay, and that's the road that's going to go to Lot 1, was where the waste transfer station is going to be located.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? So the waste transfer station won't be part of Lot 2A or 2B, correct?
That's correct.
And so all you're asking is for the entrance down here at Capitol Drive and 434 and have access to 2A and 2B only.
Yeah, actually, that entrance is already approved by you.
Right.
All I'm asking is to subdivide Lot 2.
I agree.
If you look at the prior minor subdivision plat, the same servitude runs inside the eastern boundary.
I agree.
So to really answer your question, nothing has changed but the creation of one additional lot.
Yeah, I understand. I just wanted to clarify it, so I see there's no
I'm gonna
reason
meet
to
with them
postpone this.
I'm going to meet with them this evening if they have the time and the
Right.
interest. I
I
have
do
some
like the
time.
idea, if you're gonna come in for that 2B and try to downzone that, I don't have, but that's a nice idea. Thank you.
All right, I see no additional lights on. I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, MS 14-10-60, a 4.30 acre parcel in the parcels A and B, Ward 7, District 7. The owner is Leroy and Jeanette Smith Jr., surveyors, DNS surveyors. This is in Honorable Jake Groby's council district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason why this proposal is required a public hearing is a parcel within the proposed minor subdivision is being accessed with a private drive. The owner is proposing to create two parcels from one parent parcel and is providing a private drive to only one parcel. Since said drive is not required to be built to a parish standard pursuant to section 40-045.1 of the minimum standards for a private drive of subdivision ordinance 499, the staff has no objection to the proposed minor subdivision request.
Thank you. Is Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the audience? Yes, sir. You want to tell us a little bit about what we got here?
Well, I got this parcel of land, I built 2 houses on it, and I want to separate the 2 houses.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. I believe Mr. Hutchison would like to speak on this one too, and let's see what.
I withdraw that, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Randolph. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's nothing else on, no petitions, requests, entering the trace, revocations or closing, re-subdivision, dormant subdivision review, tentative subdivision review, and then we go to preliminary subdivision review. First item, SD 06-06-018 P1A has been postponed. The second item is SD 04-08-024 P as in Paul, B as in boy, 2-2. Beatty Cove Creek Bubble 2, Phase 2, Ward 1, District 1. The developer owner is Beatty Cove Creek Preserves LLC. The engineer is Kelly McHugh and Associates Incorporated. This is in Honorable Marty Dean's council district staff.
Yes, the preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection was made of the site. It is recommended that preliminary submittal be approved subject to the following. A is okay. B, need detail of culvert and utility bedding with the note stating bedding material shall be provided under the utility lines with a minimum of 6 inches placed under the pipe and extending 1/2 of the pipe diameter beyond the edge of either side of the pipe, or a minimum of 12 inches, whichever is greater. The pipe shall be side bedded to the mid-height of the pipe or to the pipe spring line. If arch pipe is used, the bedding material shall consist of free drainage granular material meeting the requirements of number 57 limestone or crushed concrete. Other bedding material may be considered by St. Tammany Parish Engineering Department. A geotextile fabric shall be placed around the pipe at each joint to reduce potential mitigation of fill into the joints of the pipe. C is okay. D, revise cut fill calculations as follow. 1, fill for roadway, and 2 is okay. E is okay, F is okay. G, submit plans to Tammany Utilities for review and approval of water and sewer infrastructure. H is okay, I is okay, J okay, K okay. No maintenance obligations required since this is a private subdivision. No mandatory developmental fees are required at final submittal in accordance with ordinance number 04-0990 since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Planning has no comments, and Environmental Service has no comments either.
Okay. The items that you were saying okay on? Yes, sir. That means that it's been taken care of and
Yep.
to engineering satisfaction?
Yes, we had some plans dropped off today, and we reviewed them prior to this this commission meeting, and they're okay.
Okay, all right. Mr. Marone?
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Paul Marone on behalf of Beatty Cove Creek Preserve LLC. This is Phase 2 of Bubble 2. As noted, we have responded to the staff comments that we received, I believe, on the 5th. And in addition to resolving the items that staff noted, I believe that even the outstanding few items that he said we still needed to do, which was to put a note on the plat and also revise the cut fill calculations in item D, have also been addressed and by Mr. McHugh's office and have been submitted as well. So at this point, I believe that we have complied with all of the punch list items on the list, and we would simply ask for your approval of preliminary so that we can move forward with our work order on Phase 2 of Bubble 2.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marone. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Pug.
I have one question for the engineering department, just as a matter of information. On page 2, where it refers to arch pipe, what is arch pipe?
Arch pipe is just, instead of circular pipe, it's arch, where you get where you allow your heights a little bit reduced, so you can allow for areas where you don't have the actual placement of cover. So it reduces it, but it still allows the same flow go through it as the circular pipe. So it'd be like an oblong pipe.
Oblong instead of round?
Yes, sir. Flat on the bottom and arched on the top.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Davis.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Matthews. Ron? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next item, SD 10-01-001, P as in Paul, 1 Versailles Business Park, Phase 1, Ward 3, District 5. The developer owner is Versailles Business Park LLC. The engineer is the Planis Design Group, TC. This is an Honorable Marty Gould's Parish Council District staff.
The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and inspection was made of the site. It is recommended that preliminary submittal be approved subject to the following. Revised pond section AA to have a 15.5-foot elevation berm height on sheet C3. Show ditch along the south side of lot 19 connecting to the 20-foot servitude and rear of lots 9 through 11. Revised sheet C 3.2 to read 10-foot drainage servitude to 10-foot utility servitude on lot 13. 3 copies of revised sewer and water sheet 1 are needed. Sewer size, length, and slope needed to be included on either C5 or C6.2. Include length of slope and note on sheet C5. A funded maintenance obligation in the amount of $15,000 is required in accordance with subdivision ordinance number 499, section 40.061.08. Funded letter of credit for existing parish roads to ensure the repair of any damage to the parish roads resulting from construction in connection with the subdivision. Number 4 is going to be a verbal addendum. There is an existing voluntary developmental agreement that needs to be revised with the legal and the planning department.
Okay,
Planning and environmental services have no comments.
all right, thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Sure. Jason Riebert, Gulf States Real Estate Services. I'm here tonight on behalf of Versailles Business Park LLC. The Planis Design Group in our office has worked with the staff addressing their comments this week. We did submit a revised response letter to them late this afternoon. I'm not sure if Jeremy has a chance to fully digest that, but all the staff comments will be addressed prior to us requesting a work order for this project.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Casabon.
Yeah, Jeremy, when you're talking about, is this just clerical that their paperwork has to be, to reflect the 15.5, or they have to actually do this work?
This is
Just
preliminary, so it's just be on paper right now to
on
reflect
paper, they
this.
have to do,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you're stating the C3 and so on, that's just their paperwork.
Right,
needs to
that's
be-
just the design
That's what I
that they
thought.
need to
Okay.
just
Um,
clear up.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments. No plats,
We
work
have
on
a
this.
motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, subject to all staff comments. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Richard. Mr. Matthews.
I have a question either for staff or representatives of Versailles. On Department of Engineering 2B, it says, show the ditch along the south side of lot 19 connecting to the 20-foot servitude at the rear of lots 9 and 11.
9 through 11, yeah.
Okay. It appears that all of these lots, 19 and 20, drain into the detention pond on lot 21. Am I reading this plan incorrectly?
No, what it is there's a ditch that drains into that 20-foot servitude ditch. So if we have it up, I could show you, but it's along the south side of 19.
Okay, but that drains, looks like on this plan with the arrows, that it drains into the ditch on the south side of lot 20. And then it goes into here.
Sorry.
Okay, all right, well, that explains a lot. There's a typo in here. It's lot 9, not 19. That makes a great deal more sense.
I was looking at it too. I wouldn't, that makes a lot more sense too.
Yeah, I was
so,
trying to
okay.
figure out,
It's confusing me as well.
when you put a 1 in front of it,
Makes a lot more
it
sense.
changed a lot. Yes, that's it.
Oh, don't go away.
Mr. Davis.
I tell you, I'm impressed with your property description. I tried reading that property description on the plat, first page. I didn't know whether I needed a scientific calculator or a slide rule.
Well, it's an assemblage of
It's
many,
awesome.
many properties.
No, it's awesome.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. hadn't voted. Mr. Davis and Matthews, there we go. All right. We got the vote now, 9-0. All right. Next item, page 3. Second item is SD-04-08-024, P as in Paul, E as in Edward 2, Beatty Cove Creek, partial E2, Ward 1, District 1, developer owners Beatty Cove Creek Preserve LLC, the engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates. This is an Honorable Marty Deans, Parish Council District staff.
I believe this one was asked to be tabled.
Pardon? This is the second.
Parcel E2?
Pardon?
Which one you
This
just?
is the second item on page 3. The first item was postponed. No?
No, parcel 9's good to go. E2, parcel E2 is the one that's gonna be tabled or postponed, I
All right,
believe.
so I missed
That's
it?
correct. That's correct.
Okay. So the second item has been postponed, and we need to hear the first item.
That's correct.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to do another motion to correct that, or?
No, I think he's had it right the first round. He said the first item on page 3, instead of the first item on the final subject.
I think our council maybe heard it
What
different
do we
too.
need? I thought this would have been postponed and went to this one. Do we need to?
The problem is that there are two agendas. And on my agenda, F9 is at the bottom of page 2, and E2 is at the top of page 3.
If I could offer, I
So the
think when.
pagination was a little bit off.
When Mr. Keller referenced the item that needed to be tabled, he referenced it as being parcel E2.
Correct.
And then Mr. Matthews, I believe, moved on what Mr. Keller said. So I think, although there may have been some confusion on the pages, I think Mr. Keller was correct and that the motion was off of Mr. Keller's correct statement, I believe.
Good.
All right, so,
We're correct now, because initially it was postponed, E2 was postponed. It's the very first one that we need to hear, that we need to, address.
so
F9.
F9 is the one we need to address now.
Correct.
Do we need any
But I noted the error when it was read into the record, so that the record is corrected. I think we need to reverse, because F9 was in fact the one that Dave
Correct.
announced,
That's correct.
which was postponed. So we need to go back and correct that so that the record's correct.
Mr. Chairman,
No objection.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion then to correct SD 04-08-024 PE2, that we postpone that one, and not postpone SD 04-08-024 F9.
Okay. We have
Mr.
a
Chairman,
motion by Mr. Matthews, a second
Mr.
by
Chairman,
Mr.
as a
Willis.
point of order,
Yes, sir.
specifically state which one in the record has been postponed, for which Mr. Matthews can then make a motion regarding that. If one is to be postponed, make another motion specific to that. We have to divide those motions. They're two separate cases.
Okay. The one that should be postponed is SD 04-08-024 PE2. And the one that,
No, just one at a time.
okay.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to postpone PE2.
Correct.
All right. Ron, you had anything, any comment? All right, so please vote on postponing. Motion carries. We got one,
Now, do we make a motion to
wait
unpostpone?
a minute.
Huh?
We've only got 8
To
votes.
here?
Let's see.
Here?
Ms.
Okay.
Casabon's not here. Okay, that makes it correct then. All right. All right, so we need to go back up to the first one.
I'll make a motion to hear SD 04-08-024 F9.
We have a motion to hear, SD 04-08-024 F9 by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. All right. SD 04-080-024, Everson Frank 9, Beatty Cove Creek, Parcel 9, Ward 1, District 1. The developer owner is Beatty Cove Creek Preserve LLC. Engineers Kelly McEwen Associates. This is an Honorable Marty Dean, Parish Council District. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made October 30th, 2014. The inspection disclosed that 95% of the concrete roads are constructed. Road shoulders need to be constructed, and the roadside ditches need final grading. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Items A through F are okay. Need street name and traffic signs. Need blue reflectors. Need as-built signage plan. Typical street cross-section, need to show concrete roadway and base constructed on subdivision plat and paving plan. It needs to remove the cement stabilized base 10% by volume comment needs to be removed. Elevations provided on the final sewer and water sheet are exactly the same as the preliminary plan. Provide as-built plans that include as-built elevations for the tops and inverts of all manholes. Provide Tammany Utilities with a set of as-built plans. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not been issued by the utility provider as required. A negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not been issued by DHH and OPH as required by Section 40-070.0 of the Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance Number 499. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,085 linear feet at $25 per linear foot, with a total of $52,100 for a period of 2 years. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. No mandatory developmental fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Planning has no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Paul Marone again on behalf of Beatty Cove Creek Preserve. Not to confuse the matter any further, but I appreciate your willingness to table the other final for Beatty Cove Creek tonight, even though we had to go through some gymnastics to get there. There were some items on that list that our engineer is still working on, working with staff, and we just weren't in a position to move forward. So we hope to be back to you next month with those items resolved. With regards to Parcel 9 and the staff comments, as Jeremy noted, items A through F have been resolved. Item G is the street signs. We had hoped to have those street signs installed. They have been ordered. They are not yet in, but they will be in within a week's time, hopefully perhaps by the end of the week. As soon as that is done, then of course we can complete the as-built signage plan on item number I. So we would hope for all of that to be done, including the as-built submitted to your staff within the week. The blue reflectors are in fact installed as we sit here this evening. And with regards to item J, we had revised that comment, but I think Jeremy's latest comment is new, so we'll make that revision to the plat and add the comment as needed. The elevations on the sewer and water, the as-builts, Mr. McHugh's office will be performing those. We'll have those done by Friday, and we'll have the plans submitted to Tammany Utilities at that time as well. So all of those items will be completed. The bacteriological report that is required by DHH, item O, that sample has been taken. We're waiting on those results. We expect to have those results shortly as well. Once those results are in, we are not aware of anything at that point that would prohibit the utility provider from accepting the lines and the rest of the system in this particular phase. So most of these items are resolved. The few that are not will be done within a week's time. We understand that no plats will be signed and or filed until these final items are completed. But we would ask for your approval so that we can have that plat filed as soon as the items are complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Matthews.
I've just got to comment that, first of all, it looks like everything under 2, 3, 4, and 5 really are administrative items that are just putting things on the plat, that sort of stuff. The only question I have, and you might have addressed this and I missed it, but it says the inspection discloses that only 95% of the, and I added only, of the concrete roads are constructed. Why are we asking to do a final when the roads aren't finished?
I believe that the only item in regards to that is not completed is there is a portion of the cul-de-sac that is to be poured tomorrow, I think, or maybe Friday with the rain. But other than that, all roadside ditches are done and all of the roads are completed.
Okay, and you are giving us your assurance that it will be done by Friday?
Well, not only my assurance.
Depending on the weather.
Yeah, depending on the weather, yes, yes, absolutely. And of course, obviously, it's subject to the inspection and approval of your staff to make sure that that happens in accordance with the plan.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Matthews to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion?
I just have one question
Mr. Davis?
for Paul.
Yes.
Your detention ponds, when will they be finished?
Looking,
Ponds have been dug prior phases in the past year.
yeah,
All those lakes.
Okay.
yeah, there's significant retention out there already.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Now we go to SD 06-08-028F1, Spring Haven, Phase 1, Ward 1, District 4. Developer owner is Autumn Creek 2 LLC. The engineer is Kelly McHugh and Associates. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Reed Falconer. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during the construction, and final inspection was made on October 29th, 2014. The inspection disclosed that 95% of the asphalt roads are constructed. Road shoulders need to be constructed and the roadside ditches are functioning. The detention ponds are under construction and an as-built elevation are needed on the drainage plan. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Base test results are needed. Asphalt test results are needed. C, D, and E are okay. Roadside ditch elevations are needed at each property corner. That is okay, but we do need a detail of where on the drainage plan. G is okay. Developer signature is needed on the subdivision plat. Street name and traffic signs need to be installed. Blue reflectors need to be installed. K, L, and M are okay. Need as-built signage plan. Label all tracks on subdivision plat. P is okay. Provide Tammany Utilities with a set of as-built plans. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the sewer and water system has not been issued by the utility provider as required. R is okay. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of $69,900 for a period of 5 years. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Mandatory developmental fees are required as followed. The road impact fee is going to be $53,850. The drainage impact fee is $55,700. Fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. Department of Planning has no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Paul Maroon on behalf of Autumn Creek 2 LLC. In regard to item 1 and the actual field work, all the field work is completed. The roads are in, the roadside ditches are in, and the retention ponds are 100% complete. We are finishing up the pour on the weir, which will take place. It's formed up, so that will be a very small pour, but that will be done if the weather permits tomorrow, which once that's done, we'll be able to provide the detailed plan that Jeremy referenced. The base test results Those have been done, and we're waiting on the report there, which we should have by the end of the week. Also, the asphalt, that's the asphalt test results. We expect to have the base test results shortly as well, perhaps in the same time frame. All other items, I believe, have been addressed, including the blue reflectors. Street signs are in place. Each of the other items, I think, are done. So other than the detail on the weir, which we will have in a very short period of time, I think all other items are completed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public. Yes, sir. Come forward and state your name.
My name is Jim McHugh. I'm a Madisonville resident. I'm growing increasingly concerned with the traffic congestion in our area, and I'm unfamiliar with the process. And I do have a traffic impact analysis for Autumn Creek, and it was dated or done in July of 2012. Is there typically an additional traffic analysis done? Obviously, with this one, I was concerned there was a 141 home subdivision going in that stated was not going to adversely affect an already congested corridor. I just wanted to become a little more familiar with the process.
All right, Jeremy, I want to ask you to respond.
So the ordinance calls for a traffic impact analysis when a subdivision comes in at the tentative phase or tentative public hearing, if that subdivision is going to have more than 50 lots. So there's a little issue too when a subdivision goes through a PUD hearing through the zoning, then it misses out on the tentative public hearing on it. And then that TIA is going to be required at preliminary. So this one I do believe had a TIA, being that it had over 50 lots in it, but that was done on the tentative public hearing on it, and it was already deemed acceptable.
Okay. In the future, when is that typically promulgated? So the citizens have a chance to speak out on it?
It's typically not.
As a concerned citizen, how do we address that?
Jeremy?
Well, through the subdivision process, did you have something to say, Paul? Yeah. Oh, okay.
The traffic impact study is required to be submitted at either the tentative, in this case it was the tentative phase for this development, or the preliminary. There are three planning phases, as this commission knows: tentative, preliminary, and final. And that study is submitted to the staff. It is ultimately reviewed through a similar process that we see here tonight at either the tentative or preliminary phase. So at that point, it becomes, it is a public record and is subject to anybody's review that might want to review it at that point. Once it is approved and we get to the final phase, then of course we're constructing in accordance with the prior approval. But I think something that is important that I would mention for Mr. I believe it was McHugh, about how these traffic studies work is that they build on top of each other. So while this traffic study for this project may have been done in 2012, if there were projects that were started after that, even though this project was not built, when their study was done, they had to take into account this project as if it existed already. So the studies are not done in a vacuum. They're cumulative of the other developments that are out there that may not yet be on the ground but are in the pipeline. And we had those same requirements when we did our traffic study here as to any other projects that were approved but not yet constructed in the area.
Paul, I have a
Yes,
question. You said that the traffic study becomes part of the proceedings of the Planning Commission. We don't see those.
Well, it becomes a part of the proceedings in the sense that, as with any of the submittals that we make, The staff reviews it, and there are comments that are then subject to our discussions tonight. Could be improvements needed, it could be level of service items that reflect in the comments that then lead to discussions. As far as getting a copy of, whether the commission gets a copy of the entire traffic study, that would be between the administration and the commission, I guess. But when I said that it's addressed in the sense that it's reviewed, much as the plans are reviewed. Comments are generated that leads to discussion in these public hearings.
Staff, I have requested that at least I get copies of the traffic studies, and I would like to again request that I be, if nobody else wants them, I would like to look at the traffic studies. I know I'm not a traffic engineer and would not comment on the traffic engineering part, but I still would like to look at them just as a citizen looking at some of the premises that are part of the traffic study. The ones I've seen in the past, a few of them I have disagreed rather vehemently with some of the premises that are drawn for the traffic study. And I think that ought to be a comment. And I would, again, request that at least I be presented with the traffic studies as they're made and submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Jeremy, will you take that under your wing and see that in the future these?
I can. Jay is going to be actually the new traffic engineer, so I'm glad he heard your request. And then it's always also a public records request too. You can always fill out with. Well, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right. Any further discussion from the audience? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Lawrence.
And it may sound picayunish, but I've noticed a couple of 3 times lately, well, 2 times tonight. If you look at this particular case, it's in Parish Council District 1, but the note was that it was in Reed Falconer's district. Marty Dean is in District 1.
Right.
And earlier, we had one that was in Parish Council District 3, and they said it was in Marty Dean's district.
I think you mean Ward 3 and District and Ward 1. You have multiple districts in those wards.
Okay.
Wait, now, say that again for me.
Like in Ward 1, you do have District 1 and District 3 in Ward 1, and in Ward 3, you do have Districts 1, I think 4 and 5 in those districts. Those are districts versus the wards that they're in.
So
There's multiple districts in the wards.
Well, how do we come out with it, Parish Council District 1?
this particular one, and
Yeah.
I'm maybe speaking
This
out
one
of,
says Parish Council District 1. Not Ward. Okay, but look below Ward, what does it say? Parish Council District what?
Is Autumn Creek not in Parish Council District 1?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Is it-
we'll clarify it for you, Pub,
What
but
what
yeah,
I'm saying is,
I believe it's
we're getting
correct.
some, just
Yeah.
for the record,
Yeah.
is what I'm getting at.
I believe it's correct, but we'll verify it for you.
We had one earlier that was in Parish Council District 3, and they said it was in Marty Dean's district. Well, maybe back in the old,
Yeah.
before they,
Well, like I say, we do a pretty good job of checking those, but I'll go ahead and double check
okay,
it.
thank you, Ron.
Okay.
all right, Mr. Matthews.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Matthews to approve, seconded by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries, thank you. All right, we do have, an item under, old business, Ron sent an email out, and on the, agendas that were on your space. It's old business PC resolution number 12-055, entering parish right-of-way, Lindbergh Drive, Ward 8, District 14. Request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of laying and connecting water line. The petitioners PDRG, Alex Bennett, CDO, Parish Council District Representatives Honorable T.J. Smith. This is a request to amend the petitioner to John Sochet and Company LLC. Staff, you don't have any comments, right?
No, other than the fact is this was actually the off-the-table item that came up at last month's meeting,
Right.
and they need to change the petitioner on the case. That's pretty much it. Mr. Shane can address that.
Okay, Mr. Shane.
Good evening, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Firm. You were kind enough last month to take the item off the floor and extend the right of entry that had previously been granted to install a water line in Lindbergh Drive. Unbeknownst to me that night, the party that will actually be entering the public right-of-way and doing the work is not the same entity that initially filed that petition back in 2012. That party is no longer a part of the business transaction. When I learned that, actually, when your staff brought to my attention that I had submitted documents that would enable us to get into the public right-of-way, but that they were being executed by parties other than PDRG, they brought to my attention that obviously the right of entry must accurately reflect the party that's going to be doing the work, providing the insurance, providing the performance bond, signing the necessary documents with the parish. So with that having been said, I was able to get the item on the old business agenda and respectfully request that tonight you amend the resolution, and actually the technical name of the company is Sochet Construction Company, Inc. Same name, S-A-U-C-I-E-R, Construction, and it's C-O period, comma, Inc. We would appreciate that name being substituted for the original petitioner, and of course they will comply with all parish requirements as it relates to documentation, insurance, performance bond, etc.
Okay, it's gonna be Sochet Construction.
C-O period, comma, Inc.
Okay,
Not the first name, probably, that I gave Ron. Not John Sochet, ampersand company, comma, L period, C period.
okay.
That
all
was erroneous as well.
right.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
I hope not to be with you in December talking about the Lindbergh right-of-way.
Mr. Randolph. We have a motion by Mr. Randolph to approve with the changes that was discussed by Mr. Shane. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Lauren. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. You're up there, Willie, I think. Yeah, you're up there, okay. All right, any new business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? That was unanimous.